So anybody that knows me will tell you right away, there's a couple things I've been good at my whole life. Number one, making a short story long. Number two is taking a 10-minute job and making it take 2 hours. That's the one we're going to talk about on this week's Tuesday Morning Tech Tip from Pugliese Speed Shop. I know what you guys are thinking. Usually nobody would brag about making a short story long, but it's kind of my thing. I mean, you guys listen to half of them, and the guys at the VFW listen to the rest, because I'll tell you the honest truth, Megan and everybody else is tired of them. It's just how it goes. And I don't know, being in the Navy as long as I was, it's kind of a good thing because you got to pass the time somehow, right? But the second one, I am not proud of, but I do it. And it happens, well, more often than I really want to admit. And the reason is because I get wrapped around the axle, right? I'm looking at stuff and I'm thinking like I can always make it better. And guys, a lot of times I end up making it worse because it was probably great the first time, and I was like, this isn't, and I just keep messing with it, and, well, that's what happens. I'll show you right now what I was talking about with the car. So we're working on the old Delta 88, right? And, this over here, don't worry about that. Still a little bit of a mess, but let me show you what we got. Show a little light on the subject. Maybe the right one. Here we go. Better. All right. So, in the last video, all this was taken apart, tore up, everything underneath it. You guys couldn't even see the ducting down there and wiring, and this everything dropped, right? Everything over here, same thing. All that was done for these little buttons right here on the old cruise control, right? Because this wire right here need to get run, and then all the way down there. That was the problem. Fixing the problem here with the turn signal and all that took like a minute, because it just pulls right out and goes right back in. So was it worth it? That's the $1 million question, guys. The $1 million answer depends on who you ask. I mean, so I didn't even think about it, right? And that's part of the problem, is I didn't really think about it. I never really think about it, right? Until I overthink it, which is just as bad. So, I took it apart. I knew how I had to go back together, and that's the only thing. I was like, this wire has to go through here, and that's where it connects, and that's it. That's the end of the game, right? But that's not true, right? So there's more than one way to skin a cat, and I forget that, I guess. And I don't really know why. But I was thinking about it, and actually me and Kevin were just talking about this. So by trade, right, I'm an aircraft mechanic, right? Naval aviation, did it for a long time, right? So when you're doing that stuff, you're step by step with everything, right? And Kevin is very good at this. And he continues to do that. You guys know I don't. So I try to, and that's how that's how this all happens, guys. It really is. So even like when I was in the military, I'm not going to say I cut corners, because I didn't, but I would try and find better ways to do things, because you're on a flight deck, naval aviation, it's time, everything is time. You got to go now. So if I could save 30 seconds, I could have saved the flight, right? So that's just kind of how I would go. And see, I'm doing it again. I'm getting wrapped around the axle with just explaining how I get wrapped around the axle. I mean, who else would do that, right? Only a guy that can make a short story long. Seriously, though, I'm looking at this part, and it's a simple thing. It's cruise control on a car that the cruise control doesn't even work on. Definitely, because the carburetor that's on it doesn't have, it's all electronic 80s stuff, and the carburetor that's on it's not, so there's that. Now, I am planning on putting the original carb back on there, so maybe it'll work. And I'd like everything to work, right? So, well, when I end up dropping the steering column and everything else, that's when I find out it's even a different connector. So now, granted, like I said, if it didn't have cruise control, pop that thing out, pop it right back in. Literally takes that long, right? But it did have cruise control, so I'm trying to do it the right way. But there was so much slack in that wire. I ended up pulling it out, and the wire actually was kind of damaged where that part broke. So I went further back, good wire, stripped everything, connected it, made it legit. You guys saw in the video, hopefully. Heat shrunk, all that. You never know it was there. And then I made the connection so where it's inside the column there. So there's the wire that's sticking out is nice new wire. Everything's good. I could have done that literally hours sooner. I could have done that without pulling the dash apart, without pulling the ducting out, without dropping the steering column. Guys, you don't even want to know how the stuff that came out of this car. But it was crazy, right? But I'm in my head, I'm like, this is the only way it's going to get done. This is how you have to do it because you pull that wire out, you pull the other wire back in. It wasn't true. There was nothing wrong with how I did that connection, and it's kind of textbook, right? But even after I did it, I'm like, man, that was kind of shady. Maybe I should have. And I almost pulled it back apart. I'm like, why would I do it? This is like I worked on it that night, got frustrated, left, came back, finished it up the next day. And there was no reason for it to take that long. And I've done this for years. And maybe it is like back to the aircraft thing where I'm reading a book and I got to follow, it's got to be step by step. But that's not, I say it all the time, that's not being a mechanic, that's being a parts changer. And I'm not trying to insult anybody with that, but it's actually true. A mechanic, you figure out ways of doing things. Have mechanical knowledge of how things work, and I had that, I just ignored it, right? And then after it was all done, I kind of walked away. Okay, we're done. I did the video. Move on to the next. Well, I'm reading the comments, right? And Rusty Iron Projects, right? By the way, if you guys aren't watching him, go check him out over there. His channel. He's a solid dude. He's got some real cool projects. Just some of his shorts. See, I'm doing it again. But I think Chuck appreciates it. So check him out. But he pointed out, he left a comment, and he said, man, there's no way I would have done what you did. He's like, yeah, I'd fix the radio. Yeah, I'd fix the turn signal thing. Yeah, whatever. That's easy stuff. Would I have done, the window, I think he mentioned, but he's like, I would not have dropped all that stuff. and no. He said he'd have left it for the next guy, and he said the next owner, owes me a favor or something like that. And I was thinking about it. I was like, yeah, why did I do that? Well, I wanted to do it because I just wanted it to work right. And I think it goes back further for me, than military experience and aircraft mechanic. And well, now I'm a QA guy. So it's I think it goes back further than that. And I started thinking about this while I was thinking about making this video. Being a kid, my dad was the most meticulous dude on the planet. And I swear to God, he would, with everything, his clothes, always very well dressed. Even as a mechanic, even as an electrician, a truck driver, whatever. My mom would say she was the only guy, she had to iron his jeans. It's when they started, I couldn't believe it, And then his hair was always, his cars, everything he did around the house was very, everything. And, it's kind of why, his work lasted forever. There's no doubt about that. We go past the house when I was a kid. It looks exactly like the day we moved out in 1990, right? So it works. And I see that, and I'm like, well, if I'm meticulous, then and maybe that's it. I don't know. Guys, I do it. Making this video, God's honest truth. This is probably the 5th take because, well, sometimes I'll curse and I'll try, so I'll have to start over. But seriously, I don't like the way and just like I said earlier in this video, it's probably fine the first time. And then I go and I try to redo it and I make it worse and I make it worse and I make it worse. And I'm hoping this is the best take. I guess we're going to find out. Thanks for watching, guys.